भूर्भुवः स्वाहा तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात्।
Is Manan up?
Well, not seen him out yet.
And Poonam?
Good morning, Uncle.
Namaste, my child.
I'm ready, Uncle.
Good, you are ready, but where's Manan? It's 8 already, my child. Go wake Manan.
Yes, Uncle.
Good morning, Uncle. Good morning, Auntie.
Namaste, my child.
Namaste, my child. You go and get ready fast. We have to reach Arya Samaj for the weekly congregation.
Uncle, you all go ahead with this congregation. All this does not interest me at all.
Not interested? Manan, one must take interest in one's own culture.
Auntie, I find it irritating. There's so much of trash in every religion, and much more so in our own.
What are you saying, Manan? It's nice that you're going to the US, but it shouldn't mean giving up your faith and your culture forever.
Manan, my child, why do you feel so about the religion?
Uncle, we have thousands of gods. And each one's followers claim theirs to be the best, isn't it? Yet we say God is one.
I think he's absolutely right.
In our holy text, there are so many such stories, which I feel ashamed listening to. Leave apart my family, even among my friends.
Whatever you both are saying is quite right. But it wasn't like this always. Come and sit. I'll tell you. Come. Come. Come and sit. Come. About 2,000 million years ago, God, at the beginning of the creation of the world, after creating everything required for his survival, created the human being. God enlightened the minds of 4 sages, namely Agni, Vayu, Aditya and Angira, with Rig Ved, Yajur Ved, Sam Ved and the Athar Ved respectively. Later on, this knowledge got transcribed. This very knowledge of Ved later on was known as Vedic Dharma. You must have read this in the history of India, that India was known as the Aryavart, the land of noble men. Until Mahabharat period, the Aryavart had no faith other than the Vedic one. The society was classified into 4 varnas based on one's abilities. The head of the Gurukul would allocate the varnas of wise, warrior, tradesmen or the workmen to the students according to their mental and physical capabilities. And then the 16 value imbibing rituals would polish the life of the students. There were 4 stages of life: the student life, householder, semi-renunciation and the renunciation stage. The nation had wealth, peace and prosperity. From a commoner to the king, everyone followed the way of Vedic life.
Mr. Prime Minister, that means the Treasury does not have sufficient money to build a new palace as per Queen's desire.
Right, Your Majesty. That's why I came to you.
That leaves me with no alternative than adding new taxes to fund this project. Mr. Prime Minister, please discuss with the Finance Minister as to what new taxes can be levied on people.
Wait, O King. Scriptures don't allow this. A king is the servant of the people, not the master. He has no right whatsoever to burden his people with taxes for his undue indulgences.
Pardon me, O noble guide. It was my mistake. Mr. Prime Minister, you can go now. I will convince the Queen.
Long live your majesty.
Mr. Prime Minister, you have to make sure that the security is perfect in our kingdom.
Long live your majesty. Long live your majesty. Long live your majesty.
Tell me, what's your problem?
Your majesty, I live at the northern end. Often the dacoit gangs keep attacking, harassing and plundering us. It has become impossible for us to live there, your majesty.
Mr. Prime Minister, please tighten up security in that area immediately.
Sure, your majesty. Long live your majesty. Your majesty, be ever triumphant.
But as the time passed, the ashram and the Varna system went on distorting. Son of Brahmin remained Brahmin even without studying Ved, and a Shudra remained a Shudra even if he was educated. The Varna structure turned into ugly caste system. Priests would justify all the whims of king with Vedic references and in turn receive fat rewards. All the Varnas fell from the grace.
Your Majesty, you inquired about the Gomed and the Ashwamedh sacrifices. Holy scriptures clearly mention, the higher the number of cows and horses a king sacrifices, the more prosperous his kingdom will be, and the king and the slain animals shall attain salvation.
Okay. Your Grace, I have a curiosity. What do our scriptures say about drinking by a king?
Your Majesty, when there is a clear mention of Devtas drinking somras in scriptures, then how can kings drinking be objected to? Somras is nothing but liquor.
Thanks, Your Grace. You took a big worry off my mind today. Mr. Prime Minister, the royal priest be rewarded with 1,000 gold coins.
Right, your majesty.
God bless you. Oh, king,
Yes.
no fault of yours, but of this dice. Have another go.
Yes.
Your majesty, you sent for me?
Well, this noble tradesman complains of undue harassment from you.
I am not harassing him, your majesty. But how can something be allowed against the law of land, your majesty?
I feel you should grant him the desired permission, and in turn, let him pay more tax.
Right, your majesty.
Your Majesty.
Having turned away from the Vedas themselves and fearing the others becoming scholars, the priests banned all other Varnas from reading the Ved. Women and Shudras were deprived of any rights to education.
Come, I take you to the head priest. Your Holiness, this Shudra was reading the Ved.
How dare he? If Shudra start reading Ved, the world will be doomed. Take him away and give 100 lashes.
Mercy, your grace! Mercy! Mercy, mercy, your grace! Mercy! Mercy! Have mercy!
By the end of Mahabharata era, Vedic values got eroded. And this loss of Vedic values caused the war of Mahabharata. And in that war, all our knowledge, all our science, all our sages perished. New non-Vedic faiths came into being. On decadence of the Vedic faith, there emerged the Tantra cult that showed strange path to moksha.
Him, Kim, Pat, Swaha! Hrim, Krim, Chamundai, Vichai! Pat, Swaha! Hrim, destroy Destroyer of enemy, Mahakali, Hat Swaha!
They named their scriptures like Thus spoke Shiva, Thus spoke Parvati, and liquor, meat, fish, sex, and money. These 5 things were prescribed as the way to salvation. They established animal sacrifice in the yajna in their literature and claimed it to have been sanctioned by the Veda. Being fed up with the anarchical practice of the tantrics, some wise men founded the Jainism and the Buddhism. Believing in the falsehood about Veda spread by the tantrics, the Lord Buddha gave a call to boycott them outrightly.
Buddham Sharanam Gacchami.
Anand, what is this noise?
Sir, some people are taking a cow for the holy sacrifice.
Sacrifice? What for?
Sir, the cow, which is sacrificed in the Gomedh Yagya, and its sponsor both attain salvation.
Similarly, by sacrificing a horse in Ashwamedh Yaj, the king attains the moksha.
Who says so?
They say it's written in the Ved.
If this is what's written in the Ved, then the Ved must be completely abandoned.
The initiators of the Jainism too condemned the Ved, believing what the tantric text said about the Ved. They made larger-than-life-size statues of their Tirthankars and worshipped them. Belief in God waned, and humans and non-living things came to be worshipped as gods. About 300 years of Jainism resulted in severely diminished study of the Ved, but misleading the public by demonization of the Ved continued. The first Shankaracharya descended on the scene and once again established the glory of Vedic faith. The Shankaracharya defeated the Jain scholars in open debates and turned them towards the Ved. The flickering flame of the Ved got rekindled. But alas, Shankaracharya became the victim of a conspiracy, and he was poisoned to death. Rising sun of the Ved got eclipsed once again. Shankaracharya himself was against idol worship, but his disciples got influenced by the Vamarg and started worshipping the idols of Shiva and Parvati. Followers of Shiva also visited Jain temples. To stop this, tantrics replicated 24 reincarnations of God, imitating 24 Tirthankars of the Jain, and wrote 18 Puran on lines of Puran of Jainism. Then temples were constructed and idols placed inside them, and thus started the idol worship in the Aryavart. Then came around other sects like worshippers of Shakti, Vishnu and so on. Each of them made their own Puran, wherein they established the supremacy of their god over others. These Purans were written by the followers of the respective sects, but they were claimed to have been written by the sage Vyas. Many Purans are full of stories defaming great men like Ram and Krishna. The biggest misfortune of the Aryavart was that each of these sects claimed to be consistent with the Ved. The followers of Vishnu branded their bodies with symbols related to Lord Vishnu like lotus, the chakra, etc. as their way to salvation. The Aryavart abandoned the concept of God as one and only source of true happiness and began to treat names defining his characteristics like Vishnu and Rudra as individual gods. While at one hand, the Vedic faith suffered from these distortions, on the other hand, the alien faiths strangled Indian cultural identity like the tentacles of poison ivy. Conversions were happening at the fast pace, but the heads of sects of Hindus looked the other way, preaching easy formula to salvation and trapping people into their holy net. More and more faith came into being, and the country went on getting divided into caste, regions and languages. First Islam, And then Christianity found happy hunting ground here. Foreign invaders not only looted our priceless treasures, but also decimated our culture. India lost her identity as a nation, and the Aryavart became a slave. During this period, several social evils took root, and India was enslaved by the British. To put our fragmented identity back into the original frame, there was no leadership, no power, no ideal was left in front of us.
Uncle, I've read that those days many organizations worked for social reforms.
Yes, many noblemen like Raja Ram Mohan Roy worked for the social reforms.
Right. In 19th century, many noblemen came forward to eradicate the social evils from Hindu society. And they established several organizations like Brahma Samaj, Prarthana Samaj, and Dev Samaj. These organizations indeed succeeded in doing a bit of meaningful work in that direction too. And then on the social horizon of India descended Maharshi Dayanand Saraswati. His persona and the needle-sharp intelligence pumped a new hope into the psyche of the Indian people. Maharshi Dayanand Saraswati worked hard to bring all these organizations on one platform. But he realized soon that due to their pronounced leaning towards the English way of life, they cannot represent Indian aspirations adequately. Also, these organizations did not accept the Ved as original source of knowledge. So Maharshi Dayanand Saraswati got disillusioned with them.
It's strange. Swami Dayanand did so much for the nation and found hardly any mention in textbooks.
Yes, I wonder too that there is so much written about the other great men of that era, but there is nothing much about him.
Tell us something more about him.
Sure. The great epoch-making saint Swami Dayanand Saraswati was born in 1824 in Tankara village of Gujarat. He studied under great grammar scholar Swami Virjanand at Mathura. The fee paid to the Swami Virjanand was a promise to devote his entire life to spreading the light of the true Vedic knowledge and fight the darkness of ignorance in the Indian lives. He travelled through the country campaigning to establish the supremacy of the Ved and to abolish idol worship through debates. He challenged the self-styled scholars of Varanasi to prove idol worship in the Ved. In 1869, 27 of these scholars put together failed to prove that the Ved condoned the idol worship. But this fact was kept from the general public through a conspiracy. Sayan, Ovid, Mahida, and Max Muller's Vedic commentaries were ably corrected by Swamiji. Swamiji wrote new commentaries on Ved and established their true meanings. Also, Swamiji could inspire many Indian kings to work for the freedom of the country. As a result, Indians felt the waves of pride surging in their minds, and the nation pushed for freedom. To decimate the darkness of ignorance from religion and society, and also to re-establish Vedic values, Maharshi Dayanand Saraswati established Arya Samaj in Mumbai in 1875. He gave a clarion call of doing good to others and make the world a noble place. And ever since, Arya Samaj has been serving the society and the nation in a number of ways.
What are the achievements of Arya Samaj? Please tell them.
Arya Samaj has done a lot for us.
Education is not for women and Shudras. The woman is the gateway to hell.
The self-styled patrons of the religion deprived women and the Shudras of education. Arya Samaj gave them back the right to education. And despite the stiff social opposition, dedicated Arya Samajis started sending their daughters to school.
Think again, Ramlal. Sending daughters to school is against our religion and our traditions. It is a sin. We just can't tolerate this. If you send your daughters to school, you will be excommunicated.
Sir, pardon my obstinacy. If daughters are not entitled to education, then why have you named your own daughter Vidya? Tell me.
What do you mean?
An educated girl is the basis of a happy family and a healthy society. A literate mother educates her entire family. I have taken the vow to follow the path shown by Swami Dayanand Saraswati. I will definitely send my daughters to school, whatever be the outcome.
Arya Samaj established a number of schools and centers of higher education for women.
Come on! You have to perform the rites. Come! Come on! Hail Goddess Sati! 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 Hail Goddess Sati!
Main reason for the practice of sati was widowhood. At a tender age, Arya Samaj members took vows to adopt widows as their wives and daughters-in-law.
Upon becoming a widow, a girl is either forcibly burnt alive along with her dead husband or forced to lead a life which is worse than a beggar's in Mathura and Kashi. Do we owe no responsibility towards our widowed daughters? When a girl becomes a widow, does she not remain our daughter? I want to ask all of you, how many of you will take a vow to adopt a widow as your life partner? How many of you will take a vow to adopt a widow as your daughter-in-law? Please raise your hands.
Large number of Arya Samajis vowed to adopt widows as wives and daughters-in-law and fulfilled it. Thus, after widow remarriage got social acceptance, widow burning incidents reduced significantly. The other prominent reason for girls becoming child widows was child marriage and their mismatched marriages with old men. Arya Samaj launched a movement against child marriage and got the Sharda Act passed prohibiting it. Thus played an important role to rid the society of this evil. Hindus too had adopted a non-Vedic tradition of burying their dead infants. Arya Samaj re-established the Vedic and most scientific method of disposing the dead infants by burning the dead. They initially faced stiff resistance, but Arya Samajis did not give up.
We are so badly entrapped in the web of casteism. Did Arya Samaj do anything about that?
Sure it did. What Arya Samaj did to fight this social evil practice, perhaps no one else did. Arya Samaj lays great stress on the fact that no one is superior or inferior just by birth. Maharshi Dayanand Saraswati advised his followers over 130 years ago not to use caste denoting surnames, advising them to use uniform Arya instead. Arya Samaj attacked the caste system by encouraging inter-caste marriages. And many top Arya leaders married their own children outside their caste. For this, they faced ostracization not only from the society, but also from their own families. Even the word Dalit for the downtrodden was first coined by Arya Samaj. It denoted their economic backwardness rather than their inferiority because of birth. In Kerala, here at Vaikom, on the roads around this famous temple, Dalits were not allowed even to walk. To restore Dalits' social right to equality, Arya Samaj, under the leadership of Swami Shraddhanand, successfully led the first ever movement.
There is a big problem here. Out of 36, only 3 points match.
What do I do now? The boy is very suitable. I don't want to let go of him.
I can't help. Your daughter's horoscope has the strong time snake fault. She is bound to suffer.
But there must be some way out.
Look, gentlemen, I can try to find some way out, but I need to perform some special rituals for this.
Then do it, please. Keep this as your fee. When do I come, sir?
I'll keep the horoscope corrected. Come and take it tomorrow, all right?
Your Holiness be pleased.
That's 13th day is day after.
Yes, sir. That's why I have come to talk to you. They say that I have to host a feast for the entire village. But I don't have that much money.
Well, if you don't have money, then don't invite entire village. You can do one thing. Just invite 13 Brahmins and just feed them for the feast.
Will that much do, sir?
Oh yes, definitely it will be done. But yes, each priest should be donated 5 garments and rupees 101. That's very important.
This much to do. Where do I get the money from?
Can't you do even this little for the peace of the soul of your father who did so much for you? Oh no. What bad times have arrived. Oh, if you love your money so much, stop pretending to be concerned and let the soul of your father wander.
All right, sir. Don't be angry. Please invite the 13 priests.
Doesn't Arya Samaj even believe in horoscope and posthumous rituals?
Arya Samaj does not believe in fortune telling and horoscopes and considers all directions and all days to be auspicious.
But this is not done. Social reform should not stop one from performing rituals for the peace to the soul of deceased.
The Vedic belief is that instead of wasting money in the name of rituals for the dead, we better treat our living elders with affection, dignity, and lot of love.
Wow, this is terrific. I never knew this. I totally agree with this.
In 1867, Kumbh at Haridwar, Maharshi Dayanand unfurled the flag of Pakhand Khandan and started a campaign against blind faith and superstitions by rescuing them from superstitions, fortune telling, and fake gurus, showing them the right path of life.
But uncle, instead of running such campaigns, wouldn't it have been better had the Arya Samaj created awareness and educated the masses? Once people are educated and aware, these evils would not be there.
Arya Samaj did that to my child. Maharshi Dayanand understood the value of education and proclaimed that everybody was entitled to education and everybody had a right to access the Veds. Arya Samaj initiated a movement to spread education widely. DAV and other institutions of Arya Samaj are running thousands of educational institutions all over the world, where lakhs of students are not only getting a formal education, but also learning values. Language is a medium to connect people, but in India, diversity of languages divided its people. Maharshi Dayanand realized that it would not be possible to make India a sovereign nation without a common connecting language. He felt that Hindi was most suitable to serving as the contact language. That's why he wrote and discoursed in Hindi besides Sanskrit. Many publishers were inspired by him to change the language of the Urdu magazines to Hindi. Taking the tradition further, Swami Shraddhanand delivered his welcome speech in Amritsar Congress session in Hindi. This had never been done before. The contribution of Arya Samaj in establishing Hindi as the official and the common language of India is unparalleled.
However benevolent a foreign government may be, it cannot equal independence and self-rule.
Maharshi Dayanand gave the concept of self-rule to an enslaved India. The revolutionary tome Satyarth Prakash, written by Swami Dayanand, influenced the contemporary way of thinking. This grand statue of Swami Shraddhanand at Delhi's Chandni Chowk is evident of Arya Samaj's contribution in India's freedom struggle, where Swami Shraddhanand bared his chest to British bayonets while protesting the Rowlatt Act and dared them to shoot. Arya Samaj has got a long list of freedom fighters like Swami Shraddhanand, Lala Lajpat Rai, Ram Prasad Bismil, Chandrasekhar Azad, and Shyamji Krishna Verma, and so many more. Whenever the Hindu religion faced any danger, the Arya Samaj made the first offering of the ultimate sacrifice. Scores of Arya Samajis gave up their lives while protesting against Nizam's opposition of Hindus. Arya Samajis also risked their lives while helping the Hindu victims of Mopla riots. In spite of having radical differences with the Puranic Hindu beliefs, whenever an alien power threatened, Arya Samajis sacrificed their lives in defense of Hinduism. Because Arya Samaj's opposition is not as much to the temple idols as to the idols of falsehood and ignorance sitting deep in the hearts and minds.
At the stroke of the midnight hour, when the world sleeps, India will awake to life and freedom.
Even after the independence, Arya leaders stayed away from active politics, devoted themselves to the task of nation building. Arya Samaj in independent India promotes character building amongst the youth through its youth wings for young men and women. These youth wings are always on the forefront in the times of national disasters. Patriotism, celibacy, high social and moral values are imbibed deep in these young men and women. The poor condition the Hindi has reached to in the pre-independence era, Sanskrit reached the same after independence. Arya scholars started a number of gurukuls and colleges and not only kept the Sanskrit alive but also tried to popularize it by propagating far and wide. These very gurukuls helped conserve Vedic scriptures. Yoga has been a special heritage of India since thousands of years, but modern lifestyle and education system had no place for it. Far-sighted Maharshi had made it compulsory to have a gymnasium alongside every Gurukul that would teach students how to stay celibate and mentally and physically fit through yoga postures and processes. These gurukuls have produced yogis and scholars of great ability who have taught the world the real meaning of yoga and how to lead a truly healthy and happy life. Whenever the nation faced a natural calamity, the Arya Samaj has been the first agency to offer help. They work for the mankind, rising above any discrimination of any kind. The evil tradition of killing the girl children that started in medieval times has grown into a much more ferocious monster. Today, the girl children are killed even before they are born.
Doctor, she's carrying a girl child.
Yes, so? Actually, we wanted a boy as our first child.
Doctor, what she meant, if we could terminate this pregnancy?
Each Arya Samaji is committed against this heinous crime of fetus killing and never to discriminate between a male and a female child. A blind race to modernity, indiscriminate imitation of the West, indifference of the intelligentsia, and hunger for money of the media owners have pushed India into the cesspool of obscenity. In the name of modernity and freedom of speech, the media constantly assault our moral and family values, day in and day out. The media has turned cheap dancers and performers into ideals of the youth instead of our great leaders and saints. India is an agricultural economy, and Rishi Dayanand realized the contribution of the cow in the development of India. By writing a book called Go Karunanidhi, he demonstrated how a living cow is better than a dead one. Arya Samaj established a large number of cow shelters and initiated many cow protection movements. Arya Samaj runs a number of large cow shelters in different states of the country. Vegetarianism is the core tenet of the Ved that Arya Samaj adopted. The Ayurveda has been proclaiming for thousands of years that vegetarian food is fully capable of nourishing the body. The world is discovering this fact only today and moving towards vegetarianism. The Ved have put great stress on preserving our environment by conserving biodiversity and water resources. Arya Samaj, sticking to the tenets of the Ved, takes great care to ensure that no solid waste produced in any religious ritual is thrown into a water body. Arya Samaj believes that Yajna plays a definite role in cleaning and creating a balance in the environment.
Strange. I never knew that the Ved contained such nice things.
Yeah, we always thought that what is shown to us on television in mythological serials is the essence of Hinduism.
Yeah.
There's no fault of yours. Entire Hindu society has been misled to believe that superstitions are part of Hindu Dharma, forgetting the real principle of Hinduism.
And Arya Samaj is determined to remove the darkness of ignorance by spreading the light of Vedic knowledge in the whole country.
Had I known about Arya Samaj before, I would have taken the membership by now.
Uncle, once I'm back in Lucknow, I'll be going to Arya Samaj regularly.
Uncle, is Arya Samaj there in America?
Sure there is. North America, South America, Europe, Africa, Arya Samaj is in the whole world. This great movement of spiritual and social development welcomes you all. Arya Samaj is that institution where neither the caste and creed nor superiority or inferiority is an issue. Following the ideals of Maharshi Dayanand, under the umbrella of Vedic knowledge, Arya Samaj is committed to the welfare of all living beings as well as to the nation building. With the prayers of peace for the whole world, Arya Samaj is and shall remain determined to make the world a noble place. Let's all take the correct path to knowledge. Greetings to you. Welcome to the path of truth. Namaste.
द्यौः शान्तिरन्तरिक्षं शान्तिः पृथिवीशान्तिरापः शान्तिरोषधयः शान्तिः वनस्पतयः शान्तिर्विश्वे देवाः शान्तिर्ब्रह्म शान्तिः सर्वं शान्तिः शान्तिरेव शान्तिः सामा शान्तिरेधि ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः